Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and yeah, it's getting closer and closer to Halloween. I'm getting crazier and crazier as time goes on. But I do want to thank my lovely boyfriend Dave for allowing me to borrow this onesie. That makes me look hilarious. But I kind of have to keep it on because otherwise it just looks like I'm wearing a really, really large yellow sweater. So we're going full hood today, but how is everyone doing today? Today we are going to be talking about another scary level, and this is actually the reason why I went back to Little Big Planet 2 to find all of those old levels. But today we are going to be talking and discussing, like actually during the playthrough we'll be pausing and discussing and talking about things within this level. But this is going to be the kind of precursor to a series I'm going to be starting very soon, which has to do with going back to my levels or going back to other people's levels, if anybody has them, and kind of going through figuring out what is not necessarily wrong, but might work better in a different way for certain levels, and then eventually fixing those things, and basically recreating the level not from scratch, but largely from scratch, with everything that we have in the updated games, and more likely just kind of cleaning up the level and seeing what we can do to make things that didn't work very well back then work better now. Because trust me, especially in this one, there are a lot of them. Good ideas there, but a lot of things that could be worked a lot better. But if you like this sort of renovation series, let me know in the comments down below. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, but as always, no pressure, and yeah, I'm going to play through as much of this level as I can without running into walls that basically stop me from completing it. Trust me, I had to play this a few times to not hit some of the earlier walls, but yeah, we're going to do that, and then we're going to jump actually into the discussion, so enjoy this frightening level. I really should have worn something that was more frightening than a Pikachu onesie for the first scary video of the month. I guess there are previous scaries, but yeah, regardless. Not the best choice.
now we're going to jump into edit mode, and I'm going to kind of go through the level and talk about the different parts, what I could have done better, things like that. So starting off with this starting area, this is actually one of the few places in this level. I mean, there's a lot of places that I think that I got a lot of really interesting ideas going, but for this starting area, let's talk about what I was trying to do here. For this, I wanted to do a lot of what you see in the ride at Disney World or Disneyland when you go into the basement, like the service area, the boiler room of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and see all of these different things around. Very reminiscent of that. And it's not super detailed, and I think that's one of the reasons why I had such a strong filter on this. But at the same time, I'm pretty proud of it. If I were to change things, obviously I think I would just clean the platform up a little bit, and change something that I'll talk about that involves this from a scene in just a second here. But yeah, I was actually pretty proud of this. I think just off the bat, the first thing I would do is probably turn down that filter a little bit. Although I do remember that this filter was a lot less obnoxious with Little Big Planet 1 when you put the same filter on, because obviously I haven't changed anything. I mean, you can see by the boombox there, this is very clearly Little Big Planet 1. But yeah, let's move a little bit further. And I think this next section, so you can see a lot of the wiring here of the elevator, and this is the like elevator drop sequence. And I didn't do this the same way as a lot of the other things are in this level. For this shaft, this elevator shaft, basically I had it so that it would drop you through the bottom of the elevator, which I thought was like a little bit different and unexpected, because you would expect, if it's the Tower of Terror, that the elevator itself is going to drop, but this one was a little bit different. And also you can see at the bottom here that there's a bunch of other sensors here and an emitter that actually saves you from falling into the floor, the electric floor. I believe it's electric? Yeah, the electric floor there, when you do actually fall through the elevator shaft. Now, for this, I think that there's a lot of tech here that could be reworked to, one, be more efficient with the new stuff, but two, just to get the effect that I was looking for, the surprise of falling through the floor of the elevator, maybe putting some thin material in front of that just to make it more, subtle and unexpected, because that's kind of the name of the game in this level. It's supposed to be a little campy, but a little bit creepy too. And definitely for this drop sequence, this part doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Basically, my idea was that you fall and the ghosts of the hotel save you from dying like they did. But the storyline of the level is that they're angry that you want to leave because they saved your life, and they want you to spend time with them because they're lonely. I don't know, it made sense to me then. It kind of makes sense to me now, but I can't fully explain why. But let's continue. Okay, so for this area, I'm not even going to really pause here. Well, I will eventually if it goes too fast. But you can see that this glass in front of it was supposed to be some interesting type of effect. And you're supposed to take the chandelier there across, but you don't have to. There's two paths here, and I did that with a lot of my levels just to keep it interesting. But definitely going to switch that up. I want that effect still, where it's like, it seems to transition to, you can kind of see what the front of the lobby is, which is what that's supposed to be, I believe, is the lobby of the hotel. And I want to keep it similar to that, but maybe I'll just make the doorway larger and then kind of use transparent glass to still get that effect. But I guess we'll see during the remake what iterations I go through to decide. And obviously during that remake, I will discuss it afterwards too. Okay, so this is the part that I am most proud of here, and this is the second drop sequence where the elevator actually does fall. It's quite tall, and as you can't really tell here, but there's a lot going on to make it work like that. I'm going to pause here again, and you can see the elevator is very basic itself. It's pretty simple, but what you can't really see here, and what you probably, well, maybe you saw it in the playthrough, is that there is the environmental design I did around this, I thought was really, really impressive. I love how the wallpaper on the left there in the hallway transitions into this creepy elevator shaft. I like the materials used in the elevator and kind of how you can see under the wood there on the left of the actual platform. It's all metal. I don't really know why that makes sense, but I think the combination of materials here and the fact that you can see the hallway to the right works really well. But most importantly, the environmental feel of this part, I'm sure there's a better game designer way to say that, but for this part, all the music turns off and you can hear the winches slowly cranking up. the sound of the winches, as long as you leave them visible, is very creepy. And as you get closer and closer to the top, it gets higher and higher pitched because you know that the winch is getting shorter. And it's just, I was very impressed with how well this holds up, and just, I don't know, I thought it was really cool. This is my favorite part of the level. So excuse me for talking about it for so long. But yes, as you get to the bottom here, you can see the two impact explosives there, which are glued to it so they don't accidentally just set off. But those are so when you fall through, when the elevator falls, it'll hit those and explode a little bit, as it should, and then you end up falling through the bottom of the elevator into the next area here. And for the record, all of those like things that disappear, because I don't think the destroyer was a thing until Little Big Planet 2. I might be wrong about that, but it definitely wasn't a thing here. I mean, I don't even think making pistons invisible was a thing here yet, because that was actually not originally released with Little Big Planet 1. But as it falls, all of those things disappearing are actually dissolved with a sticker of a picture of that material on top of them. And I did that a lot in old levels. Even when the Destroyer was released, I think I just was so used to it. But yeah. Okay, so this is the next part, and as I hit play here, you can kind of see the wave form. I thought this was really ethereal, and I really just skipped over the whole thing there. All right, well, I'll go back to it in editing, but that was one of my favorite parts in it, and one of the people that played its least favorite parts. And largely, which you could have seen during the gameplay, is that you don't really know, you can't really see where you're going, and this is the point where the ghosts are supposed to be getting mad at you for leaving them or trying to leave them, even though they saved your life. And so as you jump across these things, the initial entry point there is really frustrating. I just kind of wanted to use that three-way switch there because it's just, I don't know, I didn't really have a lot of other uses for it, so I think I was just playing around with it. But it's really not too fancy. I do love the effect that it gives, where it's kind of like ethereal and weird. And at this point, I didn't really want it to make sense as a hotel anymore, because at this point, the ghost's kind of effect on you is starting to go crazy. And I think that where this part starts to look less like a hotel, I'm into that. But then this next section here is pretty much a mess. It's supposed to be like a maze type thing, and I loved this idea of kind of monkey barring with a piece of sponge at the top of it, and just kind of grabbing and swinging along that. But I wasn't actually sure how to get back to the secret area that I know I remember how to get to when I was younger. It actually took me a while. This is my second time filming this part, because the first recording didn't work. And so when I was going back and kind of hovering over this area, I realized that there's actually a way to get there, and I remembered the way to get there. And it's actually to go down here, but you're not supposed to get in that side. And there's supposed to be something here that actually allows you to take that, like a sponge attached to a winch, which allows you to take it up to that secret area. But yeah, this is just like a maze area that I thought was interesting, but definitely needs to be bigger so it's not as cramped, or at least more intentionally cramped, if that's what I'm going for. And also, I love the fire, but it's kind of obnoxious visually. And there's not really a whole lot of visual cohesion to this place, to this area at all, other than the fact that it uses a lot of materials from other areas. So I definitely want to kind of up that a little bit and make it more cohesive, and also probably a little more fun. It's interesting, but most importantly, now we move on to the last part. And as you can tell, this is the only part of the level that is currently impossible. It was possible at some point. I know I've done it with friends before because I made it to the end, but I think it was before I expanded this as significantly as it is now. And so the idea is you're supposed to take this vehicle and kind of move it along. There's different buttons that do different things, and eventually get to that point where you can kill the whole thing. But the controls of it are a little bit confusing for one person, especially, and it's very easy with multiple people, but it's not super easy as one person. So I think my goal would be to possibly change it so that there's two different ones for one person versus two people, which would be possible with an AND switch, the old type of AND switch, because obviously there's no actual AND switch, but doing that with a few buttons and forcing 4 players or 2 players and just giving different versions of that vehicle for those people. But most importantly, making this more possible. And I think that the best way of doing that is to not make it kind of how it is right now, which is where you're literally blasting through the worm with explosives. I still like that idea, but I think I would kind of reorient it to be more like the actual story mode boss modes, or boss levels, where you're blasting through something, but once you reach a certain point and a tag is destroyed, I believe is how they do it. Once that's done, that section of the boss is destroyed so that you can move through it freely without actually having to worry about whether or not the player can take those explosives and place or shoot them in the right direction and actually make a path for themselves. Because for a vehicle like this, obviously you can see it's quite large, and that's something else. I'd probably redesign the vehicle a little bit, but maybe into an elevator. I think that's what I was going for initially, and I like all of the different aspects of it. I like that there you can move something to block explosives from above, and that's supposed to be used more towards the middle of the worm when there are a bunch of things falling on you, but it's just a little bit hard to use. And then the different controls for moving it back and forward. I like everything all together, and for 4 players maybe it could be very similar to that, but like I said, it definitely needs to be sectioned off where you destroy this part of the ghost worm and then this part of the ghost worm and then this part of the ghost worm, and as long as you destroy enough to reach that tag, that entire section gets destroyed so you can move forward onto the next section and like kind of change it to a phased boss fight. I think that's the goal for when I do go back to do this. But yeah, and then at the end here, we just have the finishing area, which I think I just kind of slapped together because I just wanted to play it with friends at the time. I don't really know how I'll finish it. Maybe I'll teleport back to the lobby and kind of have it there, or there's no teleporters here, so it'd have to be like a death teleport. Or maybe I'll just recreate a lobby here and have you coming up from the basement. I'm not sure. I mean, it's entirely possible that I'll add on to this level and kind of make more interesting obstacles, but I think as it is for this series, I really want to keep as much of the soul of the original thing as possible, and so I will end it very similarly. And yeah, I think I'm talking now a certain amount of minutes. I think it's like at 14 minutes or so. I think I'm pretty proud of this level as it stands, and I know I'm like talking super analytically now and pretty critically of myself, but going back to this, like there are a bunch of things that I did really, really right. It's just in like a more game design-y sense when you think about the basis of game design, the things that players like and don't like, and the things that I remember players liking and don't like, and that's kind of how I form my concept of that. You can tell that there's a lot of stuff in this level that needs to be changed, that needs to be made easier, or at least more intuitive. I think that's kind of what I mean, more intuitive as opposed to easier, because nothing in this level is particularly difficult except for this last part, which is just impossible because it needs to be redone. But it just like there's a bunch of things that I can make more intuitive, and just to make more sense for the player. Maybe zoom out in some areas so you can see the next obstacles, and kind of just work towards that one goal I always have, which is if a player plays through a level or a game and they're skilled enough and they make no mistakes, they should be able to beat that game with no prior knowledge. So like certain sections where you can't really see anything, or certain sections where it's just impossible to know what to do until you die, things like that are my first goal to remove. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna switch back to an outro because I filmed the outro before this, so I don't really know where I ended. But I'll probably say this again, but let me know if there are any things in this level that you thought were really good, that I didn't pick up on, or things that you thought were really bad that I didn't pick up on. Obviously, I'm not saying just roast me, which you're welcome to do, but if there are any things in this level that just I mentioned that I thought worked well, or things that I thought that worked poorly, that you disagree with, feel free to let me know. I'm always open to opinions, and seeing what you guys think. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm gonna go to the outro now because I don't know how far I went that. But yeah, back to Pikachu.
So what do you guys think? Was there stuff that I missed? If there was things that were in the level that, maybe I don't need to correct that I mentioned, or more likely things that you saw that that didn't make sense or wouldn't make sense as you were playing through the level, yeah, let me know what you think, and we'll discuss those in the future video where I actually go back and renovate this level, because Lord do I want to, because it is currently impossible, although I do remember finishing at some point, so it's possible that it's only impossible when playing it in one of the newer games. But regardless, feel free to go play the level as well. It is up on my profile. You can play it Little Big Planet 1, 2, or 3. Haven't played it in 3, but I'm sure it's fine. And yeah, take a look at the unfinished masterpiece. I almost said that without being like phased, but then I was phased. I feel like I'm about to phase out of reality. But anyways, if you like this video, feel free to leave a like down below. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more, but no pressure as always. And again, stick around for the rest of this very Halloween-y month. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye! Am I a joke to you?